Right, how do we start?
Hello, everybody. It is episode 2 of Shouting Over Static. I almost forgot the name of the show then, which isn't really great for episode 2, is
It
it?
keeps up our level of professionalism that we had in the radio show, though.
Yeah, top notch. You know that radio show is still on the docket as something that URN do according to their
Yeah,
schedule.
yeah, they never update that shit.
I hope there is someone doing it. I heard there's a chance someone might be.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like I drunkenly spoke to someone who said they were taking over.
We're taking over.
No, it wasn't even drunkenly, it was at the cinema.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I remember someone coming up to me and then I spoke to them about it, and then someone asked us, or someone messaged me saying, "Oh, do you have any like idea in terms of like anyone who wants to take it on and whatever?" And I said, "Yeah, I've had people talk to me and I gave them suggestions, but I haven't heard anything since." So
Well, hopefully that comes to be. But if not, it doesn't matter. You've got us now. You've still got us.
We're here. Should we actually say who we are? I'm Mark.
I'm Dylan.
and I'm Jack.
Sweet.
I
Right.
feel like we needed a... And we are...
Idiots.
Oh, wait, yeah, we've actually got like a channel name. What is it? Low Expectation Media. There you go.
Yes, this is true. Very low
Man.
expectations. We are so
Yeah,
far
we're really
fulfilling
fucking
our name because, like, 2 minutes into this, and we've not said anything.
We forgot the show's name. We forgot our own YouTube channel's name. And we've spent 4 minutes recording and not really even started yet.
It's the height of professionalism. So the concept of this boondoggle, this weekly boondoggle that we're beginning, is to each week someone brings a new game to the table, though there isn't actually a table. Someone brings a new game to the metaphorical table, and then we discuss it for, I don't know, probably about an hour, just to sort of see where the conversation goes. It's like a sort of free-form, improvisational video game general chat,
Mildly
semi-focused,
guided.
mildly guided, yeah, like a slight focus to it.
Like a new missile technology. Mildly guided. Not quite guided yet.
That sounds like a not good missile.
Yeah, it's new.
Is
They're
that's
working on
that's our new YouTube channel, Bad Missiles Media.
We've actually got 2. One is just empty, but it's there.
Mildly guided content. So this week it's my turn to bring. So last week it was Jack's turn to bring a game to the table, and he brought Battleborn to the table, and that led us on an extended conversation about Gearbox and Battleborn and Overwatch and free-to-play games and loot
Yeah.
boxes. So that's the kind of thing you could expect, I think.
Yeah.
So this week,
Hopefully the exact same stuff.
yeah, loot boxes are so hot right now. so this week it's my turn to bring a game to the table, and I've brought Spec Ops: The Line,
Oh, nice.
Wow.
the 2012 third-person shooter by Jaeger, called Spec Ops: The Line. People familiar with Spec Ops: The Line? Are you
I
two
think I've
familiar with
actually
it?
got a
Played
copy
it.
of that somewhere in my room.
Have you played it, Jack?
I've played it. I sat down and played it when it came out. Like I couldn't tell you what it was about at the moment, but I remember sitting down and playing it. I remember like what is it? Like one of the opening missions, you're like crashed on a like plane or something, is it? And you're out in like the desert. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So the basic pro. Are you familiar with it, Dylan?
I know of it. I've not played it, but I know that it's one of those games that's often talked about as just like an incredible first-person shooter story, right?
Yeah. Well, it's third. It's a pretty generic like
Third
third-person shooter. Like it's sort of your basic cover shooter. But the idea is, you are Nolan North, member of an elite Delta Force group. So basically, it's a super sandstorm hits Dubai, and basically cuts off Dubai from the rest of the world. And so a bunch of American soldiers go in as part of the relief effort, and the government loses contact with them. So you and your 2 soldier buddies go into Dubai to try and find out what happened. And so then you sort of move through this ruined city, and you encounter more and more dudes, and you get into gunfights, and slowly what happened to these people becomes more and more apparent to you,
Yeah.
but also you start to kind of lose it, you end up doing some pretty ill shit, and eventually, like, you start to lose your grip on reality as it goes through. So yeah, I'm gonna straight up just say here now, I'm gonna spoil the shit out of this game.
Yeah.
Real bad. But it's basically it's interesting because it starts off as a very, very like painfully generic third person like cover shooter where you just move through like a desert area and just shoot guys with AK-47s, and it's so like formulaic.
Mm.
Yeah.
But it unravels itself in a really incredible way. Like it slowly becomes apparent to you that these soldiers who were sent in, these American soldiers who were sent in, sort of lost it a bit, and they had started to sort of impose martial law in a way that was maybe not okay, and then eventually you end up in a situation where you're getting like more and more messed up and moving through, and you encounter like a base, like a small base full of soldiers, and to clear it out, because you have to get through it because you're doing whatever it is you do to clear it out, you launch white phosphorus mortar rounds at it, and you basically burn the whole thing out, and you watch it through like a thermal display as you launch these mortar rounds at it, and you clear out this whole base, and then when you move, and then it lets you walk through the base, and you see sort of what it looks like after you've just wrecked everything, and like everyone's on fire and everyone's super messed up, and then you get to the back of the base and you find out that at the back of the base where you've mortared everything was a bunch of refugees, civilians.
Yeah.
And so you discover that in your attempt to clear out this base so you can get to wherever it is you're going, you basically commit a war crime, and you just burn a whole bunch of like women and children to death. And then from that point on, that's like a third of the way through the game, then your character starts to basically just lose his mind.
Yeah.
And like it starts doing a bunch of weird stuff with hallucinations, and then like you get more and more fucked up, and it does. So yeah, so that's the kind of general plot. It's very like Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
Like it's very look at the horrors of war, look at what it does to you. Like it's in fact kind of almost exactly as Apocalypse Now, because you're sent in to go and kill a dude who's gone rogue, and you find out that he's basically like become his own leader of this group of people. But it's yeah, I just think it does some stuff for a third person shooter that's super cool in a way that I think other games have never tried to do. Like it's just little things, like your main character starts off like you walk in, like you encounter your first set of bad guys, and he's like, he's like 3 tangos, range 400 meters, and like gives out all these like very sharp, well-spoken like military style commands. By the end of the game, when you encounter bad guys, he shouts, "Kill those fuckers."
Mm.
It's like it's full of really interesting little details like that allow it to tell a story in a really like unique and different way. And it's I think it's a shame because like it didn't sell very well.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
one
I've
really
got it. I'm actually holding my copy of it in my hand on the 360, and on the back it says the IGN thing at the top. The quote is "intense and unique war shooter." So, you know, from what you've been saying, it does sound like it's like one of those brilliant games. I mean, yeah, like I say, I sat down and played it when it came out, but yeah, it didn't really get that much coverage. I feel like it was, again, it's like what you say, it was sort of promoted as like a generic war game.
Yeah, like I think the main menu when you turn it on, and it shows you like some soldiers sitting in a ruined building with like an upside down American flag hanging, and like a shot over the ruined Dubai, and the Jimi Hendrix's like Star Spangled Banner is playing in the background, which kind of like, as far as menu screens for a third person war shooter go, that's quite an anarchic message for it to sort of open with. In like, it's full of little details like that I think
that changes throughout the game as you play. That changes, right? So like it progresses with the story, or at least that's what I'd seen.
Yeah, it's it just does a bunch of really cool stuff like that I think is unique as like I've never seen a third-person shooter try and do that before, and or since, and I think maybe that could be also because Spec Ops: The Line didn't sell particularly well, so people went, well, you can have all of your extended, like Joseph Conrad Heart of Darkness illusions, but they clearly didn't sell, so yeah, you can keep them, Spec Ops: The Line.
Well, like, it's one of those games that Reddit loves to be in love with, isn't it? It's like, oh, look at this amazing, underrated, underappreciated game. And it's like, it's not underrated or it may be underappreciated, but it just didn't get much coverage. It's everyone who plays it loves it. Or at least it seems to be. And Reddit, it's one of those games that Reddit just loves. At least that's the impression I've got. So
Yeah, totally. Like, I remember when it came out, like, maybe one video game outlet I was following actually said anything about it, but all they had to say about it was really good stuff.
Yeah. Which is
like-
just a shame, really. Like, it's obviously it's great when good games come out, but the fact that some of these games aren't getting out there on their merit alone, because when you've got like shooting games is quite a big. There's a lot, right?
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of shooters.
And at some point, people don't need it to be filled that much. And when you've got Spec Ops being just another sort of military shooter, say in the modern day, you're in Dubai, right? There's on the front of it, on the face of it, it doesn't look like there's that much to sell it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's hard to sell a story where you want to keep the twists secret.
especially one which the point of it is to appear at the outset to be an incredibly generic shooter, because like the whole point of it is to start off as a generic shooter so that eventually by the time you get to the end of it you feel like pretty like it's quite harrowing to get to the end of it, because it starts to turn the things you like. I think it's like you know how video games have like the flavor text during loading screens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the flavor text during loading screens in Spec Ops: The Line starts to change as you go through, and like it makes like comments at you, and it will say things like, did those people have to die?
Gosh.
Like, and weird stuff like that from memory. This is me trying to remember now. I think it does that. So it does little things like that, but it has, for any of it to work, it has to front initially as such a generic shooter, which I guess is why it didn't get the press that it should have. But
Yeah, because I guess a lot of outlets and stuff they'll play like an hour of a game to see if it's worth it, and then if that first hour doesn't sell, then there's a lot of games they need to go through, I guess. So you're going to get the bigger outlets doing stuff on it.
Yeah, I'm just looking on like Wikipedia, just trying to see what kind of games come out around that time as well, and it wasn't really like any sort of like games that were competing with it in terms of it being like a Warzone shooter. I don't like there was Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Future Soldier got released like a month before it, but apart from that, if you look at the releases in June, and there wasn't really a lot of like those sort of types of games coming out around that time. So it does make you wonder.
About it, Ghost Recon Future Soldier was like a super similar game, right?
yeah, like
Future Soldier was very similar to Advanced Warfare, right?
Yeah.
Except, okay.
Well,
so
yeah,
that's
except
like
that,
that's another one of those sort of. I don't know. I don't think I've played Future Soldier, but I played GRAW a lot, and I played GRAW 2.
Yeah.
And those are really good games. So like
that Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter.
Yeah.
Warfighter.
Like those are really fun. So I guess that's hard to compete with when you've got, even if it looks like maybe Future Soldier didn't actually do that well overall, but if you're competing with the name, Spec Ops: The Line wasn't, it's brand recognition, isn't it? Spec Ops: The Line was a new thing, and you're competing against Tom Clancy, and I mean, Tom Clancy games always do well. Or almost always.
Yeah,
That's why they keep making them.
Yeah, there's just I'm looking up some more stuff about. Like, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, there's a bit. yeah, there's a bit in Spec Ops: The Line as well. So like, yeah, where again it does weird stuff. So yeah, this idea that it's contemporary shooters were shooters, and like Ghost Recon Future Soldier, I imagine never ever once makes you feel like you could be the bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then so I just saw another bit that I want to talk about. In Spec Ops: The Line, there's the bit where you do the white phosphorus attack, and that's pretty messed up, and you feel pretty bad about that. Later on, there's a point where one of your 3-man unit gets kidnapped by the local populace, and they're blaming you guys for how fucked everything is. And so they lynch him. They lynch him to death in front of you, and you have the choice to just move on, or you have the choice, you and your last remaining buddy has the choice just to open fire into the crowd and just mow down a bunch of civilians. And this is like quite near the end of the game, as things are really fucked. And so you know that, like without a fucking moment's hesitation, I unloaded into that crowd of civilians for lynching my friend. And so you think for a game to have turned that around on you as well, to by the end of it you don't even feel bad for what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's just what a bizarre video game to make and to try and do, and to release it in 2012 at a time when there are so many similar. Like, what was the Call of Duty for 2012? Was it Black Ops 2?
Might have been.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, it might have been.
Let's have a look.
Yeah, November 12th. Yeah.
Yeah, so like the contemporary like big name first person shooters, what Battlefield 3 was the year before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Black Ops 2 was that year. They're games where you are, without a doubt, the good guy, doing the good thing, saving the world, and Spec Ops: The Line comes along, and not only are you not the good guy, but it makes you question so many, by being so generic and then starting to turn it on its head, it makes you question so many of like the tropes and ideas and story basis that so many other contemporary first-person shooters, especially contemporary first-person shooters set in the Middle East, put you on. And like, it's, I guess when you describe it like that, it's no fucking surprise that it didn't sell very well.
Yeah, people like playing those games to feel like the hero, don't they? It's hard to sell a game where you're the bad guy, especially when the bad guy is you killing civilians.
Yeah.
People
like
generally don't want to feel like that. Even if it's a great story to tell and it's a worthy piece of storytelling, it's very hard to sell that to someone as like, okay, you're gonna have to make these decisions.
it's harrowing.
Yeah.
Like there's an extended chase scene in the middle of it where you're trying to get like the last tanker full of fresh water, like to a group of civilians that are surviving, and it goes wrong. It goes horribly wrong, and the tanker crashes, and you get really, really fucked up, and you spend like the rest of the game with like a burnt face and like half your hair missing, and like one of your sleeves is all fucked up, and you're just covered in blood, and you don't get the water to the civilians. And it's a harrowing experience. Like, sort of from the moment it starts to reveal what it's all about, it does stuff that I can't think of any other shoot. Like the reason I mentioned it is because I can't think of any other shooters that try to do that, and they try to challenge like the paradigms of shooters in such an interesting way.
You talk about like challenging your judgment and stuff. It brings me back to like playing Modern Warfare 2 with the No Russian mission, when you're put in that situation. You're in the airport and you're going in with like Reznov or whatever the guy's name was, and you're there and he's like, yeah, remember, no Russian, and you just go around killing people in an airport for what seems completely no reason in a video game. I think that was like very much the first time where they were like, yeah, we're gonna throw this out there and see what happens, and it's just
Yeah, and then look how controversial that was as well.
Yeah, exactly. This is it. So,
No Russian was crazy.
Not a lot. Like, I think, what Dylan said as well. Video game developers don't do that because they know that they can. If they stick to that formula where you're playing as the hero, then people are going to love that and they're going to eat it up. But if you suddenly go and start killing innocent people, then that's when they sort of look at it and be like, well, wait a minute, what's actually going on? Which I think I wouldn't say that led to the downfall of Spec Ops, or perhaps it not doing too well. But it's just sort of, yeah, I don't know. It just went under the radar a bit, and I think that maybe that might have been part of the reason that it did, but I'm not sure.
I guess it touches on this. We spoke about it last time on the whole sort of games as an art form thing, right? So obviously this game is telling a very important
Yeah.
critique on stuff, and as a piece of like, as a story and as a video game, it's incredible, but it's hard to sell art a lot of the time anyway, and when the art costs a ton more to make. So like you can get really artful indie films that you can make on a budget, but it's very hard to make these big sort of AAA video games that tell such an intense story.
Yeah, because I
And
mean,
then try and sell
there
the
are some
arty
production
story.
values in Spec Ops: The Line as well. Like it's not like some fucking £5 indie thing on Steam with like
Yeah.
with like basic polygons and things like that. It's a full on like video game with money
Yeah.
put into it. So yeah, I think that is also part of it, isn't it? It's like at what point do the like I mean so that's in terms of putting money into things to try and get that return. Like look at this week, EA. So this is going to date this, but this week EA shut Visceral because
Oh, right.
they shut Visceral, and Visceral were making a Star Wars game. They were making Amy Hennig, the writer of the Uncharted games, had joined Visceral, and they were making a linear story based Star Wars adventure. And EA shut it,
Which
and the
EA
statement they
keep
put
wanting to
out
fuck up, because what, their
it
takeover stopped 1313 happening, right?
Hmm?
So we were going to have that. Everyone was really
Dylan?
hyped about this 1313 game.
I think
EA
our
just
signal cut out
cancelled
very
that.
briefly there. This is going to totally
I
ruin the
think
recording, but I think you may have to repeat that.
Oh, I can't hear anything.
Oh, yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
you
I can
now.
hear
There
both
we
of you.
go.
There we
Okay,
go.
that was bizarre. I'm sorry, chat. What were you saying?
Yeah, so like when EA took over Star Wars, essentially, right? They cancelled that 1313 game,
Yes.
and that was like everyone was really hyped for that. It looked we had seen a few bits and bobs of
Yeah,
it,
it's
and
like a
it sounded
15
like it was
second
gonna be
trailer or
fun.
whatever, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like I remember there's a little bit in a corridor we saw or something like that, and the idea was you're in the Star Wars universe, but you're not a Jedi, you're just a bounty hunter. I think it was.
Yeah, and like you're on like level 1313 of some like deep core city, and you're just hanging around in like the seedy underworld of Coruscant or something, aren't you?
Yeah, and then like everyone was upset when they cancelled that because we've not really had a nice sort of Star Wars single player story for a while. And then Visceral were making this one, and now that's been cancelled again. And it's like, well, people want this. It's
Yeah.
there's obvious like so. Anytime you see this happening on any sort of gaming forum, people are upset, and it's annoying that there's no story coming out about it, and they just keep getting rid of these things. And it's I don't know how I got onto that. I had
I
a
mean,
point.
what
and then
what
the
is
internet?
what is interesting? So, but this is it, right? Because they haven't said it's cancelled. They've shut Visceral, and they've said they want to take the game in a different direction as like a repeatable, sort of like a live experience. Like it's sort of, I think I have to find the exact quote, but it's but the way they phrase it makes it sound like they're aiming to make a kind of hang on, here it is. Yeah, so our Visceral Studio has been developing an action-adventure title set in the Star Wars universe. In its current form, it was shaping up to be a story-based linear adventure game. Throughout the development process, we've been testing the game concept with players, listening to the feedback about what and how they want to play, and closely tracking fundamental shifts in the marketplace. It's become clear that to deliver an experience that players will want to come back to and enjoy for a long time to come, we need to pivot the design. We will maintain the stunning visuals, authenticity in the Star Wars universe, and focus on bringing a Star Wars story to life. Importantly, we're shifting the game to be a broader experience that allows for more variety in player agency, leaning into the capabilities of our Frostbite engine, and reimagining central elements of the game to give players a Star Wars adventure of greater depth and breadth to explore. So they want to make Star Wars Destiny.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Which I think is dumb because like they say it lack. They say you want to bring repeatability into it, but I think they're thinking of repeatability on sort of short term, right? So these single player games, you play once, often you'll leave for a while, and then you'll go back to it because it's a game like Halo. I play the single player on that. I'll not play for a while, and then I'll play it again like a few years later maybe.
Yeah.
But I keep coming back to Halo, and I've played those games loads. Whereas I think a game like Destiny, I'm really enjoying it at the moment, and I play it a lot. But I think once I'm done with it, I'm gonna be done with it.
Yeah.
So I think it's...
Yeah, like you don't come back to the Destiny for the story, are you? It's going to be eventually
exactly.
you're going to be at the level cap, and there won't be any content, and you're not going to just keep grinding out the raid. So you're going to be done, and then in a couple of months they'll put out a new raid, and you'll come back and you'll play some more. But you're not going to go back and redo the story missions of Destiny. You're not going to once you've got, I guess you could make a new character.
Yeah,
to do
I was
that.
gonna say
you might
that's
do it
probably
like
the only
Titan
thing.
or Hunter.
Yeah, but even then, it's not like how many in 1 year. I think I ended up playing Halo 1 4 times.
Yeah.
So I played it by myself. Then I did a run through with you, Dylan. Then I did a run through with Jack. Then I did another run through with you, Dylan, didn't I? So like in 1 year, I played Halo 1 all start to finish 4 times.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's just like, I think a Star Wars single player linear game, if it's good, obviously could have that. Because people go back to sort of Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy stuff, sort of stuff.
People still go and replay KOTOR.
Yeah.
And KOTOR
But you're not
2.
going to have that with, like... So some people still play Destiny 1, but I imagine the player base is a lot smaller now that there's a different game to play. It's not like there's any reason once you've moved on to Destiny 2 to go back to.
And you know what else it is as well? You can't
So it just seems
monetize
absurd. I think I've
a
decided.
linear single player game.
Yeah.
Can you? As well,
Yeah,
you
it's very
can't.
true.
You like by making it a broader, like more Destiny-like experience to be kind of reductive about it. You can put loot boxes in that shit.
Yeah, I disconnected again, so I don't know what just happened.
I was talking about loot boxes.
Yeah, I feel like that's certainly again, going back to that point, it is something that a lot of game developers are doing right now. They know that it's going to be it's a market where people are going to be putting money into their games if they set it up as like even if they had a Star Wars game and it was like 20 quid and it was a story mode, but then it was like but you can also like customize your character and stuff. I feel like that's probably some way that they could try and get you to make some microtransactions in their game. But yeah, for sure, I think it's like you guys have said, it's certainly something that we've been waiting for a long time, and I just feel like potentially it might be picked up by someone else, but I don't know what's going on with EA at the moment.
Yeah, like EA have got the license to make Star Wars games, so they're going to keep making Star Wars games. And they say that Respawn was making a Star Wars game, one E3.
Yeah,
They said that
back when they
couple
took
of
it.
E3s ago, didn't they?
Yeah.
Back when they took over LucasArts, they said like they announced Visceral was making it, they announced Battlefront, and they announced Respawn was gonna make something, but they've not made anything yet, and I think they've started working on it, but they've not sort of put anything out.
But again, like it seems unlikely to me, and I think to bring it back to like the main through thread of this conversation, it seems unlikely to me that whatever Respawn makes will be something of the kind of style of story that you want, because as we've sort of said, trying to make unique stories of high production value that do interesting things and are like well produced costs a lot of money and doesn't have the kind of longevity that these producers want when they put this much money into a project. And it's why, like, I imagine Spec Ops: The Line cost a huge amount of money to make and tells an incredibly interesting story in a really interesting way, makes you as a player question and feel a lot of things that generic quote-unquote third-person shooters about fighting people in the Middle East never ever try and do.
Yeah.
And look at the reward it got. And I imagine EA, in terms of Visceral, probably were looking at whatever Visceral were making and said, okay, well, you're actually telling a really interesting story here, but
how do we make money from it?
Yeah. Who's going to buy it? We need a gameplay loop. We need online multiplayer. We need this. We need to be able to sell a season pass. So when they're done in 8 hours' time, they don't then just take it back to the store and trade it in for fucking reward points or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Like it's a shame because I think when studios take the risk to put a bunch of money into trying to tell a really, really interesting story, you get experiences that are so unique.
Yeah, and you get those games that people like adore. So like, what you got Uncharted, which is an incredible single player story. I know tons of people who love that game and love that series.
Yeah,
You got
I love the
Witcher
Uncharted games.
again.
Yeah.
It's these. And I think you often get people fall in love with those single player stories and come back to them so much more because there's something to actually fall in love with. But obviously, we're not spending any more money on it. Like I think Witcher's great. I know you guys think Uncharted's great, or at least you do, Mark.
I love
But
Uncharted. Yeah, that
you're
fourth
not-
one was remarkable.
Yeah, but you're not putting more money in it, right? So I guess you can keep making more ones, and you're more likely to get people come back to them. But that's more money you're putting in to
Yeah.
get a bit more money out.
Yeah,
Whereas-
that's it, isn't it?
Yeah, but like Overwatch, obviously they're still putting money in because they're supporting it, but they're probably getting a ton of money, like for that little bit that they keep putting in to keep people there. They're continuously getting a ton of microtransactions.
Oh,
and the
yeah.
same with Destiny and stuff like that. They
Yeah,
probably don't
totally.
need as much support for the amount of money that people just like vomit into their coffers.
But then you then have to look at the kind of like I have been thoroughly enjoying my time with Destiny. I've been thoroughly enjoying my time with Overwatch. Both
Yeah.
great fun. Neither of them have given me the kind of visceral, thoughtful, introspective experience that, say, Spec Ops: The Line does.
Yeah. No, for sure.
And so,
Oh.
like, are we actually looking at a situation where, because of how much money it costs to make a video game,
I think this is
And-
actually
and-
my computer fucking up. Sorry, it keeps going, and I think it's my computer breaking.
oh, that's not great.
Because every time it does it, my Audacity freaks out as well. It's not my internet.
Oh, that's not great.
I'm going to shut down as much stuff as I can.
Oh, this is all very real, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Back to it. Sorry.
Fuck it, we're doing it live. Yeah, like, are we actually like this is totally not where I expected this conversation to go, but that's kind of the beauty of this format, isn't it? But are we actually looking at a situation where that, because of how much money it costs to make video games, big video games, that now there's going to be a period now where until the production values on indie games catches up,
Yeah.
big multi-million dollar production video games will not be these kind of linear first-person shooter experience, like what first, there's like linear story-focused experiences.
Yeah. Well, I think it's hard to keep doing that, right? Because there's a few. I think there'll be a few companies that stay around and keep making them. So you'll have.
I mean, yeah, like Wolfenstein 2 is coming out next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So like there are
But
companies that still do it, but
I think it's unlikely you're going to get many new ones.
Yeah.
Unless they really show that they've made a game that everyone loves. Because, like, even Shadow of War, that's a single player. It's not so linear because it's a lot of running around, but
yeah,
they've turned that into a loot box system. I think everything's going to sort of go that way.
because it's just how to make better return on your investment, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and to be fair, as long as they're not making these microtransactions like game changing.
Yeah.
I think if they keep them aesthetic and stuff like that, then it doesn't matter because people are choosing to put this money into a game that they love. And it's meaning that we get more of these games. But when you start making the game like, oh, if you give us some money, we'll give you the better weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you do the to get back. We're back on Shadow of War. Yeah, if you do the Shadow of War thing, where you make it so okay to get the good ending, you have to grind out a bunch of bullshit, or you give us some money to get the good orcs. And yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
kind of insidious, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think hopefully it doesn't go that way. Hopefully people speak with their wallets and sort of be like, okay, well, no, this isn't what we want. We want more stuff like Titanfall. We want Overwatch. I guess to a level you've got like Dota, right? That's a lot of, you can buy
Hats.
aesthetic stuff but it's not game changing in any way.
No, not at all. Like that, that entire game and all of its tactical depth is fully available for free from the word go.
Exactly, and so hopefully people see that that's actually kind of what people want, and that's what will do well. But you never know. I mean, any excuse to make money and sort of trick people into giving you money.
Yeah, and I mean, I suppose as well, what you need is almost like a two-prong approach as well from these big publishers, where they need to be going, okay, well, we're going to do our like heavily monetized, repeatable experience, and instead of using that to make a massive profit, to make more of these, to make even more profit, we take slightly less of a profit, and then we also produce these other less monetizable but still, I think, significant video games. Like EA, what does EA make now?
Just FIFA, really, isn't it? It's just FIFA 2K Live or whatever
they make
games.
yeah, they make sports games. They do Battlefield and Star Wars that are on, like Battlefield and Battlefront.
They've got that new sort of Destiny-looking thing that's coming out, innit? That they announced.
They've
got
the what?
Destiny-looking thing that they announced at E3, didn't they? Yeah, that was it.
Anthem.
Yeah, that's what BioWare's putting out, isn't it? But again, the Destiny-looking thing.
Yeah.
So like, it's what I guess they've got their EA Indies thing coming out. That's the No Way Out or A Way Out or whatever it is, where it's like the split screen thing.
Oh, that did look cool.
But even then, that appears to be intentionally a project of smaller scope and budget.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not. They're not doing. This isn't 2008 EA where they were putting millions of dollars into Dead Space and Mirror's Edge, and they were trying to make interesting video game experiences. It's like, no, they didn't sell, which is a shame. So I guess maybe that's what you're saying, Dylan. Maybe the problem is people are voting with their wallets, but they're not voting for like interesting video game experiences.
People are voting to fuck themselves over, because I guess a lot of people don't want to dedicate this time to So video games for some people are these really interesting stories and experiences, but some people get that from books and film or TV, and they only want to play games as a release. So for a lot of people, Call of Duty is just get online and shoot some people for a while. But as for some people, like I know you, Mark, you've played all of the campaigns, right? But you don't play the multiplayer.
Yeah, I haven't really played the multiplayer since Modern Warfare 2, I think. Yeah, but I like jumping in those campaigns because it's a good 6 hours with some interesting shit in it. And I also am well aware that a lot of people who play the multiplayer never ever.
Which I think is a bit of a shame.
I knew people in high school who, I knew people in high school who, when Black Ops came out, it's like I'd be like, oh yeah, you played. They would be up to like level 25 or whatever in the multiplayer by the end of the weekend that it come out, and they had.
I know people who would be up a couple of prestiges at the end of the opening weekend, which would just be crazy to think as well, you know. And the thing is as well with stuff like that, like it does really sort of, I wouldn't say punish the developers, but it does sort of like really make you feel sorry for them. They've put in thousands of hours, thousands of manual time to try and make this game look as good as it can, and when people only say, well, maybe I'll touch the campaign, but I'm going to jump straight online and kill some people, it sort of makes you feel like they're getting a bit like kicked in the face, sort of.
You almost wonder why they bothered putting it in, don't you? It's like, well, we could save ourselves some money here. Because then also, I guess going back to this idea of how do you keep players engaged, and like Activision annualised Call of Duty to make sure someone was always playing Call of Duty.
Yeah.
That game comes out every single year. A new Call of Duty game comes out, because that means that someone is always playing Call of Duty. They've always got people involved in that ecosystem. Ubisoft had to do it with Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, although, like, thankfully they have actually stopped that. So there's been 2 years since the last one, right?
Yeah, so when Origins comes out next week, it will have been 2 years since Syndicate.
That's crazy. It doesn't feel like it's been 2 years since Syndicate came out.
Yeah, because then, like, when Syndicate came out, that had been a new Assassin's Creed game every single winter release period going back to 2009 when Assassin's Creed 2 came out. I mean, shit, like, this year will be 10 years of a new Call of Duty game every year.
It feels bizarre, doesn't it?
Won't it? Yeah, this year will be the 10th Call of Duty game to have come out on the year every year for 10 years.
Yeah, and for like these companies who are working so hard to like, especially with World War II, you know, they're trying to make it. I wouldn't say it's like realistic, but they're trying to make it. You know, they're trying to put you into that mindset of, wow, this is what happened in the war. This is how bad it was. And yet, a lot of these people aren't going to know just how bad it was because they're not going to be paying any attention to the campaign, and they're just going to hop online, open up a bunch of loot boxes, and just kill people. Which is, it's very.
Oh, yeah, because there's loot boxes in COD now, isn't there?
There has been since, what was it? I think it must have been Advanced Warfare was the first one that they did it, or maybe even one before that. I'm not sure, but
Black Ops 3 had it, right?
I think so. It might have done.
Yeah, I think Black Ops 3 was after Advanced Warfare, wasn't it?
Potentially.
Yeah, it was the year after, I think. So yeah, like, is this? It's video. Yeah, there are incredible, interesting, unique experiences. People have put a lot of time and effort into making them make them interesting with a lot of budget, and they haven't sold. So I guess now what we get is the same crap. We get we get loot boxes, and we get. I mean, we sound so fucking old and naysaying, and it's like I don't really like to be so negative. It goes back to that fucking video game show episode when they announced the Switch, and Zoe was like, "Why are you guys all so down on it?" It's like, well, we're not down on it. I think it's important to think critically about these things, and like,
because I was gonna say, so like, yeah, we do have a lot of these experiences where games are very similar, and it seems like, why are they coming out? So like, I don't really understand the appeal of FIFA, but I know a lot of people do. But we still do have a lot of games coming out that. So I think all of the big games at the moment are giving us unique experiences. So like, I don't actually see that much from Battlefield 1 really anymore. You occasionally see a GIF on Reddit or whatever, and I imagine there's still a lot of people playing it. And obviously, I'm going to be like biased by what my spheres of like activity on the internet are.
Yeah, like, Battlefield is big enough that there will be people playing Battlefield until the next one comes out next year.
Yeah. But I think the games people talk about, at least, still are those ones that are giving us interesting, different things. But the games that aren't giving us interesting, different things are still doing well enough to make money, because there's people who don't talk about games who do play them. Like, games are big, just because lots of people don't talk about them. Pretty much, like, not everybody, but a significant proportion of people do play games and give these money, but...
Yeah, 100%.
So it's an aspect of like, like we were saying, people are gonna, when you've got this formula that works and people buy it, why bother a lot of the time? But then I think there are still at least people there going, well, this is why we should bother. Because Titanfall 1 didn't have a story, people said we need a story, and they made an incredible one.
They did, they made a really great campaign.
So there are still obviously people.
How many people do you think have played that campaign who play Titanfall now online? Do you reckon it's like Call of Duty, or do you reckon people have got involved and done that? Because that campaign is incredible, and that's an experience. And like, you wonder as well, like, we all knew when Titanfall 2 came out that EA was marketing it as kind of a loss leader, just to try and snipe some of the attention away from Infinite Warfare, while Battlefield 1 mopped up the rest.
Yeah.
So then I wonder, like, are we going to be in a weird situation where they go, well...
Ooh,
Computer's right on the fritz, mate. Yeah, but are we going to be in a weird situation where, when it comes round to it, EA says, well, yes, Titanfall, yes, Respawn, you've made a great campaign, but from looking at our numbers, from looking at the achievement data... the amount of people who played the campaign compared to the amount of people who got in and played the multiplayer does not line up with the amount of money you asked for to make this campaign and the amount of money that you got us.
Yeah. Like, they might take... But I think, critically, I think that campaign did well enough, and that brought a lot of attention to Titanfall 2.
Yeah, this is very true.
The fact that when it came out, people were going like, this is remarkable. I think that brought a lot of attention that it wouldn't have gotten otherwise. Like, without that campaign, Titanfall 2 would have done a lot worse.
I would believe that.
Yeah, like it's an incredibly fun game to play, and the multiplayer is really, really, really good. But it's still just like everyone's got good multiplayer, right? Call of Duty's still fun to play. Oh,
Hello.
I'm dying again.
You're all over the shop today, mate.
What is happening?
You there, Dylan?
I think we've lost him, Jack.
I had no idea what he was talking about. But yeah, I mean, Titanfall 2, I don't feel like Titanfall 2 is going to be similar to Call of Duty. I don't, in terms of like people sitting down not wanting to play the campaign, I feel like maybe part of that is just the fact that, you know, Titanfall 1 didn't strictly have a campaign in it. So, you know, people are like they were wanting to come and play Titanfall 2. And then I feel like also with Titanfall, it's very much a like Call of Duty. I feel like World War II might be getting a bit more attention in terms of the campaign because obviously it's going back to how old wars were, and it's, you know, cutting away from all of this futuristic stuff that they've been working on for so long now, which I'm just getting tired of. And I think a lot of people are still getting really tired of all of the futuristic jumping and boosting and stuff like that, which I think people are going to sit down and play the campaign, but it's still going to be, you know, after I'd say maybe a week, maybe even a couple of days, people are going to be stopping the playing the campaign and they're going to get straight in and play online, which, yeah, again, it's such a shame. Do you feel that maybe did Spec Ops: The Line have online? All right.
Yeah, it had multiplayer. It had competitive online modes. Like they had like team deathmatch and like capture the flag or whatever. And again, like again? Why? But that is a symptom of this problem again, where they must the publishers, I think it was 2K who published it, must have said, well, you need more than just this story because our data shows that with just this story you're not going to sell. You need something to keep people invested in the game. So put a multiplayer in it.
Metal Gear had online as well, right?
Yeah, Metal Gear Online.
Which, to me, seems really strange, even if it was quite good.
Yeah, like at least that was trying to do something with what it had, but it is the same thing. It's this idea of to keep people invested in this ecosystem.
Yeah.
That I think that's a tall order. Especially, it's a tall order, especially when you want to like make your money back and like have sales, and you want everything to be of a reasonable quality. And like the multiplayer in Spec Ops: The Line was not good, but it had an incredible single player. And then I think, like there are Call of Duty games that go the other way with it. Like I mean, look at Battlefield 3. Which is absolutely incredible multiplayer. Like probably one of the best multiplayers they've ever actually done. The story was horseshit. The single player in that game was crap, infamously so. People still make jokes on Reddit about like clicking the stick to stab rats. Like weird shit that it made you do in the sort of drive to have all these pieces. But why? I guess because at that point, especially as well, the idea of just releasing a game without a single player wasn't really it was unthinkable.
Like, as well, like when you have these companies, these developers who work so much hard, like they work hard on single player games and they're well known for having good single player games. They feel, especially at the moment in today's market, that it'd be stupid not to add on a multiplayer, no matter how bad it's going to be, no matter how good the story is. They sort of feel, well, you know, people are going to be wanting to play this, and they're going to be wanting to play this campaign. Why don't we just add in a multiplayer? And then they sort of don't pay much attention to the multiplayer, or that just leads to people not playing the campaign because they just want to play online with people.
Yeah, it's superfluous multiplayer. Like we could do an entire show about video games that have had superfluous multiplayers because there are so many of them. And then also,
well, I never understood why like Grand Theft Auto 4 had multiplayer, right? But I don't know anybody who played that.
Yeah, it was weird. It wasn't very good, to be fair.
Yeah, like I never got one because I get lots of people play Grand Theft Auto Online now, but it's very different to what it was because now it's basically just it's Grand Theft Auto with other people there, right?
I guess that was them learning, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Because
that's true.
then they did Red Dead that had multiplayer, but that Red Dead brought in a lot more of like a mission based structure with like
Yeah,
forming your posse and having more activities to do. And then GTA 5 Online was when they actually made it a thing that worked, as opposed to in GTA 4 Online where it was just go around and blow up cars together with some people. I
yeah.
guess
It was strange.
very strange indeed. Yeah, I
But it is. I think so. We're sort of painting a bad light on all this sort of environment that it's caused in the gaming industry, but it's also caused like quite a nice. I don't know what the right would be, like a renaissance of indie games, because you've got such
yeah
incredible indie games coming out now that sort of fill that gap.
yeah
Like,
100%. And I mean that's kind of that's kind of what I was getting at when I briefly said like until indie games catch up with the production values,
yeah,
high production level interesting stories are sort of going to go away. And I think, like at the moment, indie games tell wicked stories and do different stuff and deliver interesting experiences
Yeah.
because they cost so much less to make, so they can kind of afford to do it.
yeah, because like Gunpoint is still, I think, just really up there with some of my favorite games because it's such a unique, weird thing to play, right? But
And yeah, like what an incredible experience! What a cool story!
yeah, and I know what you mean with the production fact. You can't really get actors in. You can't do motion capture or anything when you're making an indie game. I guess you could if you're rich, but like
Yeah,
the experiences you get are very different.
I'm sort of looking through some of the indie games I've got on PC and things that jump out.
Yeah.
It's like Super Hot. Super Hot tells, like, not only is it an interesting gameplay experience, but it tells a really weird, different, unusual story full of making you do odd stuff. That
Yeah.
if you like, if one of the Call of Duty guys, like, it's like if say like Infinity Ward went to Activision, like, okay, in our new Call of Duty game, we want to have a scene in it where we make a meta commentary on video game players by having you like sneak up on yourself in a house and
Yeah.
kill yourself as you're sitting at the computer. I mean, obviously, it wouldn't fit in with what Call of Duty is about, but you could never ever do it. There's no way they'd ever let that in a Call of Duty game.
Yeah,
Like Black Ops 3 did some weird stuff with VR and like mind jacking that seemed really really cool. But it's this. You're completely right, Dylan. It's sort of indie games have had to pick up the slack for telling these kind of stories and delivering these kind of experiences that make you think. Like Gone Home is one. Like Gone Home, it's not very long, but it's a very methodical, well-paced game
Yeah.
in which you just investigate a house, and it reveals a story as you investigate a house.
free on Xbox at the moment as well.
Yeah, there you go. That's brilliant. But
Hashtag dating.
I love it. But it's again the kind of things that you couldn't do that with the level of money that these publishers put in and expect out of it.
Yeah.
You couldn't.
Like no big developer's going to be like, yeah, just make a game where you walk through a house.
Yeah, totally.
What are they? They're not going to see the reward you can get from that. Which I guess is coming back to this point again. Like I feel like I'm making stupidly now, but I guess that's why people sort of don't see games as an art form, right? You can't see the art in a game because you have to be quite invested in games to see those games.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because you look at what people are doing with games in the high-profile scene, and you go, well, these are all first-person shooters.
Yeah, I imagine it's the exact same reason why a lot of people, like, you get people from every sort of level looking down on the level below, right? So you get people who I imagine are very literary and love books thinking, like, film's not art.
Yeah.
Because they're seeing blockbusters and it's not. And then, and so sort of theatre down to film, I guess, would be the actual step, right? And then you've got people who love these films looking down at games players, and then You get people at the bottom who just fucking love everything, no matter how shit it is.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you get people who love books going, well, comic books aren't art, and then you get people who have actually like read some of like the more high profile graphic novels going, fuck you, you can tell incredible stories and show like legitimately beautiful artwork through
Yeah.
the comic book style. It's completely valid, and yeah, you're right, and it's the same kind of thing. You look at video games from the outside and you go, well, this is all Call of Duty and Battlefield and FIFA, and none of this is
Yeah.
trying to do anything interesting. And then you look at us and we go, well, actually, no. If you look at, not only are there interesting video game experiences that exist that you could call art, there are even people who are trying to bring it full circle to Spec Ops: The Line. There are even people who are trying to subvert what you see. Like it's got to a point now with the things people are trying to do, that people now make games with the express purpose of trying to subvert that impression that all video games are shooty, bang, murder fun times. And that's
Yeah.
what Spec Ops: The Line does.
Yeah, exactly. It's, I guess, as when these industries can start being critical of themselves and that sort of thing, I guess that sort of, hopefully you see a turning point. But
Yeah, I wonder what's going to happen in the next few years of video games are going to be so interesting. Like to keep dating this show completely. I mean, don't worry. I mean, the last one we just bitched about loot boxes, so what the fuck do I care about? But yeah, the next few years are going to be really, really interesting to see how that multiplayer space and that sort of live game space shifts and changes games. Like to see the waves Destiny makes. Like we've got Anthem coming out, which is like that's a big Destiny like
yeah, well, have
from
you
everything
seen
we've
this
seen.
Activision patent that just recently got confirmed or got like passed?
Yes, I have, but tell us about it.
So it's I think they put it through in 2015 or came up with it then, and essentially it's a way of they want to sell it as this technology that improves matchmaking for the player, but also it's got these aspects to it that means they can make players more likely to pay with do microtransactions. So what it does is, I think the sort of main step of it is that it looks at your skill level and it will base matchmaking on that. So if you're like a really good sniper or whatever, it'll put you in these sort of situations where you can play and you'll have a good time. And this skill level, I think that, so we've seen that in games already. We've seen this skill level that affects how you get match made, but it can be sort of continuously adapted a lot easier, so that if you're doing really shit for a while, for like a few games, it'll change it. But then what they wanted to do was to encourage you to pay for stuff. Is if it sees that you really like sniping, it will put you up against snipers who are better than you, who have better guns. So you're more likely to buy a gun that means you can keep up with them. And then not only that, which is already pretty bad, after you've done that, after it's seen that you've made a purchase, it will then put you against people who are worse than you.
That's bizarre.
That's
so
insidious.
So that you do better and feel good. So you get this like immediate reward of, oh, I paid money and now I'm good at the game.
Yeah.
And I think that's dangerous. But luckily they patented it, so it will only be Activision games.
Oh man.
Oh.
So like Call of Duty is gonna be great fun. The matchmaking stuff sounds brilliant. Like it's a really, the technology behind it for how it could improve matchmaking for people seems really nice, but then they've just made it shitty.
Yeah.
So like they've completely taken any good part of it that they've done and been like, okay, we're going to use it to make money, which is fair because they're a business.
Yeah.
They got to make money.
They're a publicly traded company, you know. Shareholders need that cash, right?
Yeah. So I guess Activision might go down a little bit in the next few years.
Or maybe or maybe everyone's going to feel so great because their crazy insidious psychology of making you feel good after paying money means that everyone buys a million loot boxes in Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And Activision buys the world. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
It's absolutely crazy. Like, it's so insidious. But that's the kind of... That's what the big development in... exactly. You're exactly right, Dylan. How could you stand outside of video games and say, oh, well, this is clearly a valid artistic piece of expression, when the big patent by one of the big publishers to go in one of the big multi-million-dollar franchises is a form of gambling
Shakedown.
psychology. Yeah, a shakedown.
Yeah.
Of a way of making players... It's a Skinner box. It's a big fucking button you press that puts out food and orgasms, and then you just sit there and press it till you're poor or die.
Yeah.
It's...
Yeah, no, it is, and I guess for the people doing it, it feels good, right? But the fact that you'd have to keep paying money to enjoy your game just seems absurd, doesn't it? And that's one of those things that people criticize, is that DLC is getting so sort of... It's a part of it now. That's like...
Yeah.
Microtransactions are just a part of gaming now. A few years ago, we wouldn't have thought
I think
so,
it's
but now
like that's what Titanfall 2 has done so well. Like you say all the time, you know, you can buy skins that make you look better, but they don't have any apparent effect. And you know, you when you buy this stuff, you're buying what you're getting, and you know what you're going to buy. You know what skin you're getting, you know what gun you're getting or whatever. But the stuff with loot boxes is like you say as well. Yeah. It is gambling. It is essentially just putting money on, hoping to try and get a better weapon, which is it's bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe when kids play these games, it's...
I was going to say maybe Spec Ops: The Line could have sold better if they'd made it so you could buy hats to put on all the prisoners of war that you shoot.
Man.
You know, maybe it wouldn't, to be fair. Like, imagine a game where you could dress someone up and then murder them.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think we've got all over the shop today. I think yet again, we've managed to sort of loosely target ourselves into a completely different conversation. I didn't expect to have this conversation, to be honest, but I think it's definitely a worthwhile one to have, and I think we've managed. It's not exactly the same as the one we had last week, which is good.
And it's not even that far from Spec Ops. We're talking about how sort of that's a different game and why it did badly. And
yeah, definitely, it was a very, very different game. I think we should start to sort of move towards wrapping this up about the 1 hour mark.
No,
but I think it was a very, very different game that didn't do as well as perhaps it should have, but it tried to do things that were interesting and in its own way succeeded excellently.
Yeah. Which is commendable.
An experience. Yeah, 100% commendable. And it's a shame that sort of it came out at the time it did, where the first seeds of what the world we live in now with video games, this was 5 years ago, and that was sort of at the time that we need live experiences. We need season passes. We need a multiplayer. We need loot boxes. That was as the seeds of that were being planted, and now here we are in our fucking this is the worst timeline. And yeah, like, God bless Spec Ops for trying to do something different, I suppose. Like, I think, Jack, if you don't remember much of it, it's well worth playing through again. Like Dylan, I've spoiled bits of it, but there's still stuff in there that I haven't spoiled that you'll play it and you'll be like, shit, man, that's... Whoa. It makes you question things that you take for granted in other stories.
Yeah.
In a way that games don't do. And I guess also we've established why. In the last hour we've established exactly why games don't do that.
Yeah.
Because...
And I guess won't do either.
And won't do, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, how, like, what... Imagine if the campaign for like Call of Duty World War Two just had a bunch of really next stuff like that in
That
it.
would be weird. I feel like
Yeah.
yeah, it would be incredible. But I feel
would be
like again, it
incredible,
would be
but-
one of those things that I don't think Call of Duty and Activision and whoever the other developers working on it that they're not going to do that because, like you say, like you said earlier, they have that formula. They've stuck to it for the last God knows how long, and it's working for them. It seems to be making them a lot of money, and I don't think that that's something that they'll start doing anytime soon. Which again is really upsetting.
Yeah. Maybe next week we'll try and have an upbeat conversation where we don't just complain about the state of the video games industry for an hour.
I'm gonna try and pick a fun game.
Sweet. It just came to me during the week. And I was like, that would probably have an interesting conversation around it. And it wasn't.
It did.
I expected it to be more of a conversation about sort of the quality of morality systems in video games, or like choice or player agency, and like the quality of like the moral quandaries of third-person shooters. It was way more of a meta conversation than I expected. That I've thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah, I've had a good time again. Hopefully,
How
Matt
bizarre.
and Ollie did too.
Fingers crossed. Yeah. So,
My
Jack,
thing. Oh
what's
yeah,
your
I have a
thing?
YouTube thing.
Links
That's
through
three
it
things
around.
we've forgotten now.
Yeah, I play. I
Yeah,
play
Jack's
games
got a
on
YouTube thing. Dylan, you don't have a YouTube thing.
No.
Get a YouTube thing.
I mean, I just do low expectations media with you, Mark.
Oh yeah. Maybe
One
one
day
day.
I'll-
Maybe.
I'll come down to Nottingham and we can cut that out. I'll come down to home of residence and we can make some videos together.
I'm not cutting it out. Take too long.
Oh,
Hello. I'm not going to cut out the bit where you say the city that I live in. Just saying.
okay. That's fine.
Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe one day there'll be an episode 2 of Neo Geo Roulette, or episode 3 of Neo Geo Roulette, but probably not.
We did start that at like the worst time.
Yeah. One day. Maybe one day we'll work out a way to do it over the internet, but probably not. Because that Neo Geo, that perfectly legitimate way of playing Neo Geo games, does have some online capabilities in it. It does have some netcode,
Oh, well then.
which is a thing that all Neo Geos have.
Did you not know that Neo Geos were the first internet-capable consoles?
Yeah. Okay, guys. Yeah, this was fun. This went a completely different way than I expected. Play Spec Ops: The Line. Anyone listen to this? Like the 4 people who are ever going to listen to this, who aren't the 3 of us, and have the ability to play Spec Ops: The Line. I think it's on PC, Xbox 360, PlayStation 3. You could pick it up for dirt cheap because again, it didn't sell very well. It's well worth playing. Incredible experience. Really different. Sweet.
See you later.
Cool. See you
Right.
next week.
Bye.